Eventually, you start facing off against Axel himself. This is where the game starts really getting intense, especially because the whole game up until that point has been leading up to a clash between Sparkster and Axel. Axel and Sparkster face off at Zephyrus Castle when Axel kidnaps the princess, but he escapes in an airship, setting Sparkster off to pursue him through the next 2 levels. Sparkster later boards the airship and again comes face to face with Axel, but the Black Knight evades Sparkster's blade once again. Finally, the two are leveled off to have a one-on-one battle. Oh my god, what is that?! Well, that's just not fair! Luckily enough, after a short chase, Sparkster commandeers his own giant pig mecha Gundam and dukes it out with Queensberry rules. I suppose I should take a moment now to address the nature of the relationship between Sparkster and Axel Gear as rivals. See, they trained as Rocket Knights together, and therefore they formed a bit of a bond. Well, a rivalry bond. You know, Sparkster would gain the upper hand, and then Axel, and then Sparkster again. But this system just didn't seem to work out for Axel. He wanted to prove that he was the better man. But unfortunately, the codes of nobility and honor that the Rocket Knights had to adhere to just didn't seem to be enough for Axel Gear to run on. So, he left the Rocket Knights, joined up with the Pig Emperor, and got the backing of an army behind him, all to prove that he was the bigger man. In fact, he actually went back to Zephyrus and killed Sparkster's mentor, just to prove, hey, I'm the bigger man here. Or a possum here. However, at this point of the game, now we see that it's actually Sparkster who has surpassed Axel in some way, because of his honor and nobility. You know, it kinda harkens back to Dragon Ball Z lore, with the relationship between Goku and Vegeta, where the power-hungry Vegeta is constantly trying to get the one-up on Goku, and yet Goku is just so nice and kind-hearted that strength of character brings him through any fight he has with Vegeta. And eventually, by interacting with Goku, Vegeta does develop a heart and becomes a good character, and in fact, he becomes stronger because of it. So, it's understandable that when Axel is defeated by Sparkster's honor and nobility, he realizes the nature of their rivalry and comes back with a gun that shoots Super Kamehameha waves. Okay, so maybe defeat didn't teach Axel anything after all. The final destination on Sparkster's journey is the Pig Star itself, and the Rocket Knight takes it upon himself to destroy the weapon once and for all. Within the battle station, though, the game comes to its exhilarating climax as you face off against 3 bosses and a shocking plot twist. During Sparkster's battle with the Pig Emperor Devotindos himself, you discover that the game's villain has been a machine this whole time. In fact, he was just one of an army of Pig Emperor robots, an alien invasion force for the unsuspecting planet below. I know it's not the best plot twist in the world, but it's certainly not expected. Once Devotindos has been dispatched, it's time to face Axel for the last time. You can just feel the tension in this fight. It's like, yeah, finally, it's time to settle this. Let this be our final battle. And this time Axel breaks out all the stops as he destroys one of the space station's walls, creating a space vacuum death trap for Sparkster and himself to set the stage for their final encounter. Finally, you face off against the final boss, the Pig Star's core, the source of the evil Pig Emperor's power and the malevolent alien being that threatens to destroy the planet. It's probably the most fun you'll have fighting a boss in a platforming game. Upon the destruction of its core, the Pig Star begins to explode, because that's just the way that evil lairs work in video games. You know, whenever you kill the last boss, you have to escape from his lair, which just happens to be self-destructing because you defeated him. After a swift escape from the Pig Star, it seems that Sparkster's adventure is at last finished, but there is just one last loose end to tie up. Okay, seriously, how many other final bosses out there are defeated because they chase you into the heat shield of the planet and are burnt up in the ozone? That's just original, and it's plain awesome. Well, that's Rocket Knight Adventures. It was one of the best games of my childhood and one of the best underrated classics on the Sega Genesis. It's been nearly 20 years since the game's first release, but it still holds as one of my favorite games ever. Now, there were several sequels made to Rocket Knight Adventures that came out on the Genesis and Super Nintendo, but I didn't have these when I was a kid, and because of that I feel that I couldn't talk about them with the same fervor as I did this one. This was just something for me. Coincidentally though, I learned while making this video that another sequel to Rocket Knight will be coming out on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade sometime very soon. I don't know if this game will be quite as overlooked as the original games were back in the 90s, but you better believe that I'll pick it up, if only for the joy of having another adventure with Sparkster.